Hey guys, welcome to the Reparenting Daily podcast, your daily guide for inner child healing. This podcast helps you establish a consistent reparenting routine and is divided into 3 sections. The first is a daily reading, the second is a discussion of that reading followed by suggested journal prompts, and the last section is a peaceful meditation for closing. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whenever and wherever you're joining us. I'm so glad that you're here as we continue on this journey of self-expansion and growth. If this is your first time, welcome. Now, before we dive in, I have a few quick reminders. Please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Your support here helps us spread the word, allowing us to continue to grow this community. Next, I'd like to introduce our Patreon group, where we have 3 weekly meetings. On Sundays, we have a meditation meeting. On Tuesdays, we have book club meeting. And on Thursdays, we have open topic discussions. These meetings take place at 6 p.m. CEST, so Amsterdam, Paris time. For my next announcement, I'd also like to introduce the Reparenting Daily journal, which you can find on Amazon. This journal follows along with the podcast, so each weekly and monthly themes are reflected in the journal. It provides space for you to keep your notes with plenty of extra resources on each topic that we discuss. It's an excellent tool, and if you purchase it, you can join our weekly meetings for free. Just send me an email and we'll get you linked in. For the last announcement, I'd like to introduce one of my most meaningful creative projects, a 3-volume series entitled Fairy Tales for Reparenting. Now, you might be wondering, why fairy tales? Aren't those just for kids? But through my personal healing journey and in studying the work of Carl Jung, Marie-Louise von Franz, and other spiritual and psychological traditions, I've come to see fairy tales as powerful symbolic maps for transformation. They carry deep, timeless wisdom, especially for those of us doing the hard work of reparenting ourselves. The series follows the structure of the hero's journey. Volume 1 explores the wounded child, stories of loss, betrayal, and innocence. Volume 3 is about the trials of endurance, cunning, and self-discovery. And Volume 3 is the return, stories of transformation, power, and wholeness. Each story is followed by journal prompts and space to reflect on how each story connects to your own inner healing journey. These are not just tales, they're tools. They're an invitation to connect with the part of you that still believes in magic and possibility and healing. You'll find both familiar classic and lesser-known stories from cultures around the world, offering you fresh insights and inspiration on your path. All 3 volumes are now available on Amazon. Your support means so much to me, not just for this project, but for the larger mission of helping myself and others reconnect inwardly. Reparenting is like nurturing a bonsai tree. It's not fast, it's not flashy, but with care, patience, and consistency, it will transform you. Thanks so much for being here and for supporting this work, and also for committing on your personal journey of self-expansion. Now, without further ado, let's dive into today's practice. Today's reading is from the CPTSD Foundation website. It's an article entitled The Wounded Inner Child by Shirley Davis. Just as a reminder, we're in August, and the theme for this month is Healing the Inner Child. We're in week 3, which is August 15th until the 21st, and the theme for this week is Healing Childhood Wounds. The wounded inner child. The inner child are the parts of our psyche that remains full of innocence, awe, and wonder. When our child is healthy and we are connected with him, we tend to be invigorated, inspired, and excited. However, what happens when our inner child is wounded from past trauma and we are disconnected from them? When we ignore the inner child in our psyches, as adults, we feel disconnected from life, tired, empty, and unhappy. This article will further explore the topic of the wounded inner child, how these little ones can affect their adult selves. A brief recap: what is an inner child? The concept of an inner child was first proposed by psychologist Carl Jung after he examined his own childlike inner feelings and emotions. Jung postulated that it was this inside part of all of us that influenced all we do and the decisions we take. The inner children were us when we were kids that never grew up. They are who holds all the memories and emotions, good or bad, that we experience. These learned messages are incurred when we were helpless and dependent on our caregivers. Unfortunately, it is also these inner children who absorb all of the negative and harmful words and actions of those who are supposed to keep us safe. Once wounded, These inner kids negatively influence who we are as adults, holding enormous power over our relationships and decisions. The unsafe messages the children receive. All children deserve to feel safe, safe from harm, fear, and lack. Safety does not mean only physical security, but also emotional and spiritual well-being as well. When children feel safe within the families they're born into, their boundaries are respected, and that their needs are met so they feel secure. Childhood trauma, when the child's needs are not met, destroys a child's sense of safety, causing them to become hypervigilant and scared. In adulthood, these inner children never go away, and neither do the feelings of being unsafe and that the world is a horrible, dangerous place. When a child feels continually in danger, a massive, gaping wound opens in their psyche that is so painful that many adults unknowingly repress it. Knills in 1991. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. You can check out the article. Words can hurt as severely as actions, with some of the signals given to children leaving deep scars that can last a lifetime. Some of these statements and actions made by parents that leave open wounds are as follows: not allowing the child to have their own opinions, discouraging from play or having fun, not allowed to display strong emotions, punished for speaking up, continuously shaming by caregivers, not allowing spontaneity, was not given appropriate hugs, kisses, or cuddles. Children who do not receive the emotional and physical support grow up to be hurting adults. The 3 common ways children are made to feel unsafe. Children crave and deserve to have their needs met and to feel safe and loved. However, even in today's advanced society, many kids are neglected and wounded. There are 3 types of trauma children endure at the hands of their caregivers that cause later adult inner child injury. These include physical, emotional, and psychological neglect. Physical neglect and nourishment are basic human needs that are to be freely given from caregivers to children. However, in physical neglect, these rights are violated and are lacking. Unfortunately, physical neglect does not only mean the child was kept from food and shelter, it also means several forms of abuse are taking place, such as sexual abuse. The results of this type of neglect are devastating. Below are only a few of the negative impacts of physical neglect has on children and the adults they become: low self-esteem, eating disorders, self-harm, addictions, violent behavior, and sexual dysfunction. Emotional neglect. In this type of neglect, a child's caregivers did not show interest in the child's emotional needs for support, respect, and love. In these cases, either the caregiver does not pay attention to or condemns any emotional expression that the child might need. Like with physical abuse, the symptoms and outcomes of this type of neglect are dire in adulthood: low self-worth, repressing emotions, ignoring one's own emotional needs, depression, anxiety, shunning emotional closeness or intimacy. And lastly, psychological neglect. This kind of neglect occurs when a child giver fails to listen to, nurture, and embrace the beautiful human being that they are. This form of neglect includes all or any of the following: name-calling, insults, ridicule, yelling, gaslighting, lack of privacy, managing or making overt threats. These symptoms that occur when the inner child endures this type of neglect and inhabit adults can be deep-seated feelings of anger, inability to love themselves, the development of low self-esteem, addictions, neuroses, psychological illness, physical illness, showing a lack of respect for others, problems with sustaining healthy relationships. As can be seen, the wounded children become the wounded children as adults we have to grow up and later have left that home. Thank you, and that's the reading for today. Welcome back. This reading on the wounded inner child connects deeply with August's theme of healing inner child wounds by showing how early neglect, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, leaves lasting imprints that can shape our adult behaviors, relationship, and self-image. reminds us that many of our struggles aren't due to flaws in who we are now, but are survival responses that we formed when we were small, dependent, and without power. By bringing these wounds into awareness, we can begin to replace the unsafe messages we absorb with affirmations of worth, safety, and love. Healing means becoming the caregiver we needed, creating a sense of protection and stability that allows our inner child to finally rest. Within this week's focus on reparenting inner child and addressing the wounded inner child, healing those wounds, the reading highlights why reparenting is essential. Because these wounds don't simply vanish with age, you see, they live on until they are cared for. Reparenting is the act of meeting your own needs for validation, emotional safety, and unconditional love, often for the first time. By learning to recognize the wounded parts and respond with compassion instead of criticism, we slowly build trust with ourselves. This process opens the door for joy, play, and authentic self-expression to return, while also helping us break the cycle of neglect for good. As we move on to the journal prompts today, number 1, which of the 3 forms of neglect, physical, emotional, or psychological, do you relate with most? And how does it still affect you today? Number 2, what unsafe messages did you internalize as a child that you would now want to change and replace? And number 3, imagine your inner child in a safe, loving environment. What would you want to say or do to help them feel protected? That's it for today. As always, thanks for being here. Take care of yourself, and please do be well. Welcome back, welcome back. Now, this is the third and final section of the daily podcast. This is your silent meditation. Please go ahead and find a space where you can be comfortable and undisturbed, where you can relax and spend some time with yourself for this 10-minute silent meditation. You can choose to be sitting, standing, lying down, or in whatever position makes you comfortable today. Take a moment to simply be with yourself. Focus on your breath and gently connect with each part of your body. If thoughts arise, don't let them overwhelm you. Just observe them without attachment. Imagine them as leaves drifting down atop a river, passing by without needing your engagement. Stay present, grounded, and open to this moment, no matter what time you are listening and practicing this meditation. Namaste.